welcome to Keeping It Real. I'm your host, Krista Gibson, and my guest today is Reverend Judith Laxer. Hi, Judith.
Hi, Krista.
And Judith is the founding priestess of Gaia's Temple in Seattle, Washington. And she just told me off air that they've just celebrated 18 years, so congratulations.
Thank you.
It's awesome.
Thank you.
And so today you're going to be talking to us about the fall equinox.
Right.
And kind of what those energies are and how we might be able to celebrate that.
Sounds good, yes. So we've been talking, I've really enjoyed this whole series, this whole year, talking through all the points on the wheel of the year. It is fun. And now we come to the autumn equinox, which the Celts called Mabon, or some people say Mabon. It's M-A-B-O-N. And it's the second of the 3 harvest festivals on the wheel of the year. And now we're going into the dark half of the year. So I know we've talked about the equinoxes before, but just to kind of reiterate, so an equinox is the day, that 24-hour period of equal day and equal night. And there are 2 of them on the wheel, the vernal, or the spring equinox, and the autumnal equinox, which is coming up on Saturday, September 22nd of this year. And actually, I think the exact point of the equinox is like at 6:54 p.m. that evening, which I think is just, well, of course it's perfect. The cosmos is always perfect.
Right.
But I think it's particularly perfect because autumn on the wheel of the year is the twilight time of the year. And so this year it falls right at twilight, too. So
nice.
I think I think that's going to make the energy even more sweet. So that is the autumn equinox, and now we're entering into the dark half of the wheel. So even though this particular day is a balanced time of day and night, equal day and equal night, we do know that starting the very next day, the days will slowly begin to grow shorter and the nights will begin to grow longer. I love the dark half of the wheel, so this is a happy time for me, but for most people who do not want to say goodbye to summer, they're like, no, they don't want it to end. But I think the autumn is just a magnificent time, and of course I'm a gardener, so that helps a lot too, because the harvest is just magnificent, and all your hard work all year long is starting to come to fruition, and you're really enjoying it now. So that part is pretty sweet also. So anyway, so we get to the autumn equinox. We're entering into the dark half of the wheel. The nights are growing longer. And there's a few things that naturally occur because of that. And but also on a practical level, those things occur also. So whether it's practical or metaphoric, the themes are the same. So this is the second of the 3 harvest festivals on the wheel. The first was of the grains. That was at Lunasa, the last Sabbath. This one is of the fruits and the vegetables. Typically, you know, the grapes are right now and they're coming to fruition. Winemaking begins and all that sort of stuff. So it's a time really to take stock. It's a very reflective time. Now begins the more deeper reflective times. As we go into the dark half, there's less activity out there in the world, right? The nights are longer and we want to just kind of be cozying up and staying inside more. Most of the gardening work is done at this point, except for the harvest. And so we start to reflect now. We're taking stock in the garden. You know, did those tomatoes do well? And you know, how many pumpkins did I get? And how's my corn harvest going right now? You know, that sort of thing. So we're taking stock of how all the hard work that we did in the garden, is that coming to fruition, and what is our harvest? But we can also look at that metaphorically and say, you know, during the light half of this wheel of this year, during the growing season, all of the things that I put forth that I wanted to grow and tend and manifest, how do they do? How am I doing? Am I starting to harvest those goals and intentions that I put forth in the spring? So it's very reflective that way, and I always love that part of it, you know. Both to see how well you did and also to learn, right? That corn is a heavy feeder. It's going to need way more fertilizer than I gave it. That's why I have one little cob that hardly looks like anything, you know. And in my life, I thought this was going to go swimmingly, but maybe I didn't, you know, promote it enough or give it enough attention or, you know, so it's a good time to learn also, which I find to be very fruitful. You know? So, so let me just check my notes here to make sure that I don't just go off in a million and one different directions. So this month, the month of September, the full moon on the month of September is called the harvest moon.
Right.
And it's called the harvest moon because this is the time when everything's coming in, and if the days are starting to grow shorter, then, the ancients needed as much natural light as they possibly could, and so they were harvesting under that full moon as well, just taking advantage of whatever light they could get to bring the grapes and the vegetables and everything in. So I love that harvest moon aspect of it, and you can even see that the moon starts to look a little bit more golden and yellow because of the light changing at this time, which is just so, I love that sort of syrupy light of autumn. So beautiful. So the harvest moon and that full moon is happening 2 days after the autumn equinox this year on the 24th, also around twilight. And so, you can utilize that whole weekend really to, if you keep a garden, what can you actually harvest and take in at that time? If you don't keep a garden, what am I harvesting in my life right now? How do I see where it's actually manifesting? I can hold that pepper in my hand, and can I hold that manuscript in my hand if I'm right? Did I get that job? Or did I reach my financial goals or health goals or whatever it is? It's a good time to really look at what is your personal harvest.
Right.
Right. And then on a practical level, ways to actually celebrate the season, other than ordering your pumpkin spice latte, which is everything's pumpkin spice now. But, because the Wheel of the Year was sort of formed based on an agricultural model, right, of growing and tending and harvesting. And so now we're not only harvesting, but we're also looking ahead a little bit to how can we preserve what we have? Because, we just go to the grocery store and buy food all the time, but the ancients couldn't do that. So they had to find a way to preserve the food that they had, looking ahead toward the future. So taking stock is not only how did I do so far, but what am I going to need moving forward?
Right.
So I don't know, I do a lot of canning. I actually do canning and preserve. I make, jams and chutneys and
marinara sauce. Yes, I saw it on Facebook.
Yes, you saw my marinara on Facebook.
I did.
It's delicious. I just want to brag for a second there. And it was all made from my tomatoes, garlic, onion, and herbs from the garden. It was just so wonderful.
Yeah.
And then, there's only 6 jars of it, so that's not going to last me through an entire winter, but it still feels good to know that there's something in the larder that I have grown and preserved.
Yes.
And so a lot of the celebrations around Mabon are about food because they're about the harvest.
Right.
So if you decide on the autumn equinox that you're going to have a special meal, a specific meal that you're going to make sure that you bless, maybe everything that you eat is something you've either grown or bought from the farmer's market, or certainly food that's in season, and then you bless the bounty of the earth and you remain mindful while you're eating of, just how she gives us everything that we possibly need to keep going.
Yes.
So that seems very simple because we're going to be having dinner anyway. But I think that if you focus on the spiritual aspect of it and kind of lift your heart with gratitude a little bit more, it elevates it spiritually.
Right. Absolutely.
A simple meal becomes a ritual.
That's right. Yes.
So any way that you can or preserve, another thing that I started doing a couple of years ago, I just bought a dehydrator, a simple little dehydrator that you plug in. I think I got it at Bed Bath & Beyond. It wasn't that expensive. And it's got 4 little trays on it. And so I have a couple of apple trees on my yard, and I couldn't make any more applesauce than I'd already made, and there were still so many apples on the tree, so I just cut them up and put them in the dehydrator. And now I have dried apples, which I would go and buy at the grocery store. But so that even if you don't have a garden, you could just get a dehydrator, buy some apples at the grocery store, and still be engaged in the act of preservation.
Right.
Exactly. And that's something that you do at this time of year, just with an eye toward the future,
Right.
And a friend of mine gifted me with a boatload of plums, beautiful Italian plums. And so I made some spicy plum sauce, but then I still had so much left over, and I put them in the dehydrator. And those are a delicious snack for later on, and they're going to keep all winter long.
Right.
It's that sort of thing. And I know it seems like I'm talking more about cooking and food than I'm talking about spirituality. But in earth-based spirituality, it's we honor everything that takes place from the earth and with regard to the earth. And our food, of course, is, crucial.
Where it comes from. Exactly. Yeah.
So anything that you do in food preparation, food preservation, the preparing of food, and sharing the bounty with others, that's a beautiful thing too. Often late summer or just before school begins again, there's like block parties and neighbors get together and they all bring their, food and share and get to know each other that way, which is always a lovely thing to do. But you can also do that by just inviting your friends over to have a harvest potluck and celebrate it that way. So that's a beautiful thing that you can do also. And then another wonderful ritual, and this is what we do at the Gaia's Temple ritual, but you can also just do it on your own, and you can also do it more than once because it's a whole season, not just that one particular day.
Exactly.
So, in harvesting the garden, then often what happens too is you're cleaning up the garden beds and you're preparing them for dormancy. And one of the things we do when we do that is to plant some fresh bulbs for the spring. And I think I talked about this last year. We just did this is in the equinoxes, but just to review, that a beautiful thing to do would be to get some bulbs, whether they're crocuses or daffodils or tulips or even lilies, any kind of bulb that is going to be planted. But first you contemplate what it is that you want to gestate during the dark time of the year. Like the seeds are always inside whatever has grown, and now they're resting and gestating, waiting for the earth to shift again toward the light half, where the sun and the warmth is going to coax those seedlings and bulbs to come alive and begin to grow again. So at this time of the year, we contemplate, okay, so this winter is going to be a dormant time. It's a time for rest. It's more time for dreaming and planning and scheming than it is for action. So what kind of intention would I have now that I want to kind of hold in that gestating period? I want to dream about and plan for and scheme and make what is my creative process that isn't active so much as thoughtful.
Right.
Imagine through a meditation that intention goes into the bulb. So you can hold on to that bulb while you think of what that intention is. Maybe you gather your breath and blow it onto the bulb, and you infuse that beautiful little crocus with whatever it is as a metaphoric way of thinking of what your intention is for the spring. And then you do a ritual at actually planting it. You go outside, you find the perfect spot, you dig up the soil while you contemplate Mother Earth. There she is right in the soil. The bulb represents your beautiful intention. You plant that deeply, as deeply as it needs to go. Maybe you say a little blessing over it. You cover maybe a little fertilizer, something it can eat all winter long while it's deep within the earth. You cover it back up, cover it with leaves or some sort of mulch to keep those squirrels away. And that you can ritualize a simple planting of bulbs. So many people do it anyway because they just want to see the beauty of the flowers in the spring. But you can also make it something that has more personal and spiritual meaning to you. And when you start to see those little things come up in the spring, it lifts your heart so much to see, ooh, look, it's starting to happen. And in doing this, I think also what happens is you're contemplating a very great mystery, really, which is that mystery of life that has to go dormant, or there has to be, some death. One thing must die in order for something else to grow. This is a finite planet. There's too many of us to come here and stay,
We have to keep rotating. Yeah, we have to keep rotating.
Everybody gets a turn.
That's right.
And when you engage with the earth this way, with planting and growing and harvesting, you really stay engaged with that life cycle. And so planting a bulb we can look at as kind of a burial, but also knowing that it's not the end.
Right.
It's the dormant period, and life is going to come.
Right.
You know, it's, well, the life cycle is cyclical. That's why it's called a cycle. So,
Exactly.
yeah. So there's the planting of things that
Yeah.
is a beautiful thing to do at this time also.
Right. That's
And
beautiful.
I have friends who don't have a garden or who live in apartments and they don't have any place to do that, but they just get a nice deep,
Sure.
like flower inside, and they
Absolutely.
plant the bulbs there. Their bulbs will probably come up sooner because they're not outside in the cold, you know, but it's still lovely when they come up. So
Right.
it doesn't have to be that you have a garden in order to participate this way.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. Or put them if you have a little patio outside or a little front stoop or something. I mean, there's always some way to be creative and participate.
Windowsill, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So then the last thing that I would talk about is, you know, so the autumn equinox, just like the vernal equinox, are times of balance, equal day and equal night, as I said. And so that theme of balance, and actually September 22nd ushers in the sign of Libra, which is the scales of balance also. So it's all, you know, all in there together. And when it comes time to contemplate balance, we know that it's not static. We don't hit balance and stay there. You know, life is always in the flow. There's always a bit of a movement. And so balance is a constant dance of a little bit here and a little bit there and a little bit here and a little bit there. And so it's good to ask ourselves or contemplate balance in our own lives as well. And so the equinox is a great time to again, sort of take stock. Am I getting enough rest for the amount of work that I'm doing? Am I receiving as much as I am giving?
Right. Right.
Am I obsessing about this one thing and everything else is being ignored?
Right.
Do I balance that where my attention goes? And then you can take it all the way down to everything. Am I getting the right nutritional balance? Am I, you know, in every way you contemplate how is balance a principal theme in my life?
Right.
And am I really engaging in it in a healthy way? And so then at the autumn equinox, if you determine that, let's say, I'm not getting enough rest for the amount of work that I'm doing. Who? Me? You know, then maybe the intention that you put in that bulb that can start right away is, okay, 10 o'clock, I'm going to bed no matter whether it's finished or not.
Right.
I'm closing the computer and I'm going to bed because I need to get that rest so I can go another crazy day tomorrow.
Right.
You know, the intentions can also be about balance. Not only, I mean, you can make your intention about anything.
Right.
But at the autumn equinox, balance would be a good thing, you know, a good thing to take a look at.
And it can be so challenging to be balanced, especially today. Yeah, the energies are so intense, it's real easy to get pulled off your center and not be in balance. So, yeah, it'd be a good time.
That is the norm. The energies are crazy. There's so much that's volatile and so much that's worrisome in our world and in our country in particular. And I know for myself, I can get into a very strong despairing place. And especially as someone who cares so much for Mother Earth, to just see how whatever beautiful policies we were trying so desperately to put into place are just being torn apart and thrown everywhere and missed. It's, you know, it's heartbreaking.
Right.
And it's very easy. It is. It's heartbreaking. And it's very easy to go to a very, very difficult place. I don't think that we should be in denial of our sorrow.
Right.
You know, but I do think that our sorrow, if we can somehow find it to be a motivator.
Right. Transform it. Right.
Like we have to feel our sorrow and our anger and our upset, but you don't want to dwell there.
Right.
You know?
Don't get stuck there. Yeah. Use it to move you forward. Exactly.
Right. What kind of actions are you going to take to counter these practices? Yeah. But yeah, it throws you right off your balance. You know, you can have a wonderful conversation with someone, be in a wonderful mood, and then make the huge mistake of turning on the news. And here's got another aspect of madness going on, and you know,
spiral down.
Exactly. So finding that balance, and then what are those balance practices? Like I decided a long time ago, and I stay up with the news as best as I can, But I'm not watching the news just before I go to sleep anymore because I have trouble with that.
Yep.
And I don't want my dreams to be nightmares about just the information that I just took in. So now I check in with the news in the morning so that I can integrate it during the day. And, in this digital age of everybody on everything and your phone in your hand constantly, you're going to hear the highlights of things. You don't have to glued to the screen and take it in, and let it take you down or throw you off.
Right.
So finding the ways that you can, cope with and manage your life so that there's balance. Not that you're in denial, but you're also not obsessed.
Right.
What's that middle ground?
That's
How do we find that? That's the big question, isn't it? How do we maintain that middle ground?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's the challenge. But the thing about earth-based spirituality is that if you're following the seasons and you're seeking to emulate nature, and this is the time when we're coming on to balance, then how can I emulate nature and find my own personal balance? And the more we contemplate that, the more we try to stay aligned, the better chance we have of being successful at it.
Exactly. Exactly. Now, are you having a ceremony?
Yes, Gaia's Temple is having a big ceremony, and that is going to be right on the equinox, September 22nd, Saturday evening. We're gathering right at 7 p.m., so we're gathering right exactly when the equinox falls.
Perfect.
It should be amazing energy. And it's a beautiful ceremony that we do, and it's going to be in Meridian Park, which is right behind the Good Shepherd Center in Wallingford.
Right.
So from behind that center, you'll find us there by the gazebo, and we have a lovely ritual planned for the community. Everybody's welcome. A lot of people come, even if they're not confidants of Gaia's Temple, just, curious to know how to celebrate the season. And then we have a wonderful potluck afterwards, which is just a great way to get to know everybody and, just share community that way. So it's a lovely event. And everybody's welcome. And if you go to our website on the event page, you can get all the information about, what you need to know about coming. So.
And that's gaistemple.org, and now I've got it here on the screen so people can see it. And then if people want to connect with you personally, because you do readings and sessions and guidance and counseling and those kinds of things.
I do. I have a private practice where I work as a psychic and a spiritual counselor. I do hypnotherapy and shamanic healing, all that good stuff. And they can find me at judithlaxer.com. That's my website that describes all my services. There's also a contact page there. Or you can give me a buzz, too. My telephone number's on the website. Or will you have the telephone number on the bottom there, too?
Sure, if you want me to put it there, I can. Absolutely.
Yeah. So contact me anytime. We can set up a session, too. Yeah.
Perfect. Wonderful. Well, thank you for being here again. This is just such a delight to learn more about the different holidays and kind of see them with the more spiritual bent. So I certainly appreciate your time with us, and I know our viewers like it.
Tuesday. Thank you.
All right. Take care, and happy autumn equinox.
You too. Thanks so much. Bye.
Bye.